In the earliest days of the American colonies, there was no official money from a central government. People had to find other ways to buy and sell goods. The most common method was barter. A farmer might trade a bushel of corn for a new pair of shoes from the local cobbler. Someone might exchange a barrel of salted fish for some cloth to make a new shirt. This system worked for small, local communities where everyone knew each other and could agree on the value of different goods. However, as the colonies grew and trade became more complex, barter became very difficult. It was not always easy to find someone who wanted exactly what you had to offer. To solve the problems of barter, colonists began using certain goods as a form of money. These were called commodity money. In the southern colonies, tobacco was a very popular form of currency. Workers were often paid in tobacco, and taxes could be paid with it too. In New England, Native American beads called wampum were used for trade. These were small polished shells strung together in belts. Wampum had a recognized value and was used for many transactions between colonists and Native Americans. Other items like beaver pelts, grain, and even nails were used as money in different places. This system was better than barter, but it was still not perfect because the value of these items could change. Because there were no official American coins, people also used money from other countries. Coins from England, Spain, France, and the Netherlands were very common in the colonies. The most popular coin was the Spanish silver dollar, often called a piece of 8. It was a large, heavy silver coin that was trusted all over the world. People would sometimes cut these Spanish dollars into smaller pieces to make change. A half dollar was called 4 bits, and a quarter dollar was 2 bits. This mixture of foreign money created a lot of confusion. Each coin had a different value, and it was hard for merchants to keep track of everything. The reliance on barter, commodity money, and a jumble of foreign coins made daily life complicated for the early American colonists. There was a clear and growing need for a standardized system of money. People wanted coins that everyone could recognize and trust, with values that didn't change from day to day. This need for a stable currency was one of the first major challenges the colonies faced. It set the stage for the very first attempts to create a distinctly American form of money. The journey to a national coinage system was long and filled with many interesting experiments, starting with a small island settlement. The story of the first coins made for use in the English American colonies begins not on the mainland, but on a small group of islands. In 1612, a group of English settlers established a colony on the Somers Islands, which we know today as Bermuda. The colony was managed by the Somers Island Company. At first, the settlers used tobacco as their main form of currency, just like many of the mainland colonies. However, the governor, Daniel Tucker, found this system to be unreliable and inconvenient. He wanted a more stable and official form of money for the island's growing economy. This led to a very important decision. In 1616, Governor Tucker authorized the creation of the first coins for the English colonies in America. These coins were known as hog money or hog money. The name came from the design on the coins, which featured a wild hog. Hogs were very common on the islands when the settlers first arrived, and they were an important source of food. The coins were made of brass with a very thin coating of silver. They were produced in several denominations, including 2p, 3p, 6p, and a shilling, which was worth 12p. This was a significant step forward from using tobacco leaves for trade. The design of the hoga money was simple, but meaningful. On one side, the coin showed a hog, with the Roman numerals for the coin's value placed above it. For example, a 6p coin would have the numeral 6 above the hog. The other side of the coin featured a depiction of a sailing ship, which represented the ship that brought the first settlers to the islands, the Sea Venture. This ship was very important to the colony's history. The coins were not made on the islands themselves, but were struck in London and then shipped to Bermuda for the colonists to use. They were the first official currency for an English-speaking colony in the New World. Although hoga money was a pioneering effort, its use was short-lived. The coins were only in circulation for a few years before the colony went back to using tobacco as its primary form of currency. The coins were not very popular with the settlers, and not many were made. Today, these coins are extremely rare and are highly prized by collectors of American colonial money. They represent the very first attempt to solve the currency problem in the colonies. The Hoggy money of 1616 was a bold experiment that paved the way for future efforts to create a unique American coinage system on the mainland. As the colonies on the American mainland grew, the shortage of reliable coins became a bigger problem. The Massachusetts Bay Colony was a busy center for trade and commerce, and its leaders grew tired of relying on barter and foreign money. England did not provide an adequate supply of coins for its colonies. In 1652, the Massachusetts General Court made a very bold decision. It decided to establish its own mint in Boston to produce coins for the colony. This was an act of defiance against the English crown because, at the time, only the king had the authority to issue money. The first coins produced by the Massachusetts Bay Colony were very simple. They were thin silver planchets, or blank discs, that were stamped with just two letters, NE for New England on one side, and the Roman numerals for the denomination, 3, 6, or 12 pence, on the other. These NE shillings were the first coins struck on the North American mainland. However, their simple design made them easy to counterfeit. People could also clip off small pieces of silver from the edges of the coins without anyone noticing, which was a common problem called clipping. To solve this, the mint quickly moved to a more complex design. To prevent clipping and counterfeiting, the mint began producing coins with more detailed images. First came the willow tree shillings, followed by the oak tree shillings. These coins featured a tree in the center, surrounded by lettering around the edge. This made it much harder for anyone to trim silver from the coin without it being obvious. The most famous of these coins was the pine tree shilling, which was produced from about 1667 to 1682. The design featured a detailed pine tree on one side, which was a symbol of the Massachusetts colony. The other side had the date 1652 and the coin's value. An interesting feature of the pine tree shilling and the other Massachusetts coins is that they were all dated 1652. Even though they were minted for about 30 years, the date never changed. The colonists did this for a political reason. The mint was established in 1652, a time when England was without a king. By keeping the 1652 date, the colonists could argue that they were not defying the authority of the later King Charles II. It was a clever way to continue making their own money. The pine tree shilling became a very important and trusted coin in New England and beyond, showing that the colonies were capable of creating their own stable currency. After the success of the Massachusetts coinage, other individuals and colonies also tried to create their own money. The period before the American Revolution was filled with a wide variety of coins and tokens. These were often made by private individuals in England who hoped to make a profit by selling them to the colonies. For instance, in 1688, a series of tin tokens were made for use in the plantations, but they were not very popular. Another attempt was the American Plantations Token of 1694, made of pewter, which also failed to gain widespread acceptance among the colonists. One notable experiment was a series of tokens intended for the French colonies in the West Indies. In 1670, France issued copper coins for its American colonies. These coins were marked with the Latin phrase, Gloriam Regni Tivi Dicent, which means, "They shall speak of the glory of your reign." While they were not made for the English colonies, some of these coins did find their way into circulation in places like Louisiana. These efforts show that the problem of a coin shortage was not limited to just the English colonies. It was a widespread issue across the Americas, and different European powers tried to solve it in their own ways. A more famous and beautiful series of colonial coins was the Rosa Americana coinage. These coins were produced by William Wood in England between 1722 and 1724 under a royal patent. They were made of a brass alloy called Bath metal. The coins featured a portrait of King George I on one side and a rose on the other, with the Latin words Rosa Americana, or American Rose. Wood hoped these coins would be widely used in the American colonies. However, the colonists were suspicious of them. They felt the coins were overvalued, and that Wood was just trying to get rich. The coins never became popular and were largely rejected. Perhaps the most significant coin of the pre-federal era was the Fugio cent of 1787. This was the first coin officially authorized by the new United States government under the Articles of Confederation. The coin's design is full of meaning and is often attributed to Benjamin Franklin. One side features a sun shining down on a sundial with the motto Fugio, which is Latin for "I fly," suggesting that time flies. Below the sundial is the phrase "Mind your business." The other side has 13 interlocking rings, representing the original 13 states, with the words, "We are one," in the center. These cents were a powerful symbol of the new, unified nation. After the United States won its independence from Great Britain, the new nation faced a major challenge, creating a single, unified monetary system. The country was still using a confusing mix of state-issued paper money, foreign coins, and various tokens. The leaders of the new nation, including Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and George Washington, understood that a strong, independent country needed its own official currency. A national coinage would promote commerce, unify the states, and serve as a powerful symbol of American sovereignty on the world stage. It was a crucial step in building a new government. The discussion about a national mint began soon after the Revolution. Thomas Jefferson proposed a decimal system for the new currency, with the dollar as the main unit, divided into tenths, dimes, hundredths, cents, and thousandths, called mills. This was a revolutionary idea at the time, since, most countries use complex systems of pounds, shillings, and pence. Jefferson's logical and easy-to-use decimal system was eventually adopted. Alexander Hamilton, as the first Secretary of the Treasury, also wrote a detailed report on the need for a mint and a national coinage, outlining the specifications for gold, silver, and copper coins. These efforts led to the passage of the Coinage Act of 1792. This landmark piece of legislation was signed into law by President George Washington on April 2, 1792. The act officially established the United States Mint and authorized the construction of the first mint building in Philadelphia, which was the nation's capital at the time. The law specified the different coins that were to be made, including gold eagles, half eagles, and quarter eagles, silver dollars, half dollars, quarters, dimes, and half dimes, and copper cents and half cents. It also defined the value of the dollar in terms of a specific weight of silver. The construction of the first United States Mint building began in the summer of 1792. It was the first federal building erected by the United States government. President Washington himself took a great personal interest in the project and even donated some of his own silver to be used for striking the very first coins. The new mint was equipped with machinery brought from England, and it was ready to begin the important task of producing money for the entire nation. The creation of the United States Mint was a pivotal moment in American history, marking the end of the confusing colonial era and the beginning of a truly American system of money. Once the United States Mint was established in Philadelphia, its first task was to produce copper coins for everyday transactions. These were the coins that most ordinary people would use for small purchases. The first official coins struck for circulation by the United States Mint were the copper cents of 1793. These coins were large, about the size of a modern half-dollar, and were made of pure copper. The Coinage Act of 1792 stated that the cent should contain 11 pennyweights of copper. This made the coins heavy and substantial, but it also meant that their production cost was very close to their face value. The first design for the new cent is now known as the chain cent. It was struck for only a few weeks in early 1793. One side of the coin featured a representation of liberty with long flowing hair. The other side showed a chain of 15 links, meant to symbolize the 15 states that made up the Union at that time, the original 13 plus Vermont and Kentucky. In the center of the chain were the words 1 cent and the fraction 1 over 100. However, the public did not like this design. Some people thought the image of liberty looked frightened, and many felt the chain was a symbol of slavery, not unity. In response to the public criticism, the mint quickly changed the design. The new cent, known as the wreath cent, was introduced later in 1793. This coin kept the same image of liberty on the front, but the reverse was changed to a beautiful wreath tied with a bow. The words 1 cent were placed inside the wreath. This design was much more popular with the public than the chain cent had been. A small number of these cents also had a decorative edge with vines and bars, while most had a plain edge. The wreath cent was produced for several months in 1793. Before the year was over, the design was changed one more time. The final cent of 1793 is called the Liberty Cap cent. This design featured a new image of liberty. This time, facing to the right, with a Phrygian cap on a pole behind her head. The Phrygian cap was an ancient Roman symbol of freedom and liberty, and it was a popular emblem during the American and French revolutions. This design was well received and, with some minor modifications, was used for the cent until 1796. These first 3 cents of 1793, the chain, the wreath, and the Liberty Cap, are historic treasures that tell the story of the nation's first steps in creating its own currency. While copper cents were important for daily commerce, the new nation also needed larger denomination coins made of precious metals for significant transactions and international trade. The Coinage Act of 1792 authorized the production of silver and gold coins, establishing the United States dollar as the country's standard unit of value. The silver dollar was the cornerstone of this new system. The first United States silver dollars were struck in 1794. These beautiful and historic coins are known as the flowing hair dollars, named for the design of liberty on the obverse, or head side, of the coin. The design of the flowing hair dollar featured a youthful image of liberty with long, flowing hair, surrounded by 15 stars representing the 15 states. The reverse side depicted a rather slender and graceful eagle perched within a wreath. This design was created by the mint's first chief engraver, Robert Scott. Because the mint's equipment was not yet perfected, the first silver dollars were not struck with great force. As a result, many of them have a somewhat weak appearance. Only 1,758 of these dollars were minted in 1794, making them exceptionally rare and valuable today. One of these coins is believed to be the very first United States dollar ever struck. In 1795, the design for the silver dollar was updated to the draped bust style. This new design also featured an image of liberty, but it was more formal and classical, with her hair tied in a ribbon. The reverse initially showed the same small eagle as the 1794 dollar, but in 1798 it was changed to a large, heraldic eagle, similar to the one on the Great Seal of the United States. This draped bust design was used on the dollar until 1804. These early silver dollars were the backbone of the American economy and helped establish the nation's creditworthiness around the world. The United States Mint also began producing gold coins in 1795. The largest denomination was the $10 gold piece, called an eagle. The first gold coins used a design known as the turban head, although the cap Liberty wears is actually a Phrygian cap, not a turban. The reverse of the first gold eagles showed the small, naturalistic eagle inside a wreath. Just like the silver dollar, the reverse design was changed in 1797 to the more powerful heraldic eagle. The minting of these first official silver and gold coins was a major achievement, providing the United States with a full range of currency and a firm foundation for its economic future. From its beginnings in 1792, United States coinage has constantly changed, reflecting the nation's growth, challenges, and values. Throughout the 19th century, designs were frequently updated. The classic coin designs of the early 1800s, like the draped bust and capped bust series, eventually gave way to the seated Liberty design, which was used on most silver coins from the 1830s to 1891. This design depicted Liberty sitting on a rock, holding a shield and a pole with a Liberty cap. The discovery of gold in California in 1848 led to the creation of new gold coins, including the gold dollar and the massive $20 double eagle, to handle the enormous wealth flowing from the West. The Civil War brought significant changes to the nation's money. To finance the war, the government issued paper money for the first time, known as greenbacks. Metal for coins became scarce, so people hoarded their gold and silver coins. In response, the mint introduced new coins made from less valuable metals. The 2-cent piece, introduced in 1864, was the first United States coin to feature the motto, "In God We Trust." A year later, in 1865, the mint began making a 3-cent coin out of copper and nickel, and in 1866, it introduced the 5-cent piece, or nickel, which we still use today. These changes helped keep the economy moving during a difficult time. The late 19th and early 20th centuries are often called the golden age of American coinage design. President Theodore Roosevelt believed that the nation's coins should be beautiful works of art. He commissioned famous sculptors like Augustus St. Gaudens to create new designs. This led to the creation of the stunning St. Gaudens double eagle and the Indian head eagle. which are widely considered to be the most beautiful coins ever produced by the United States Mint. Other beloved designs from this era include the Buffalo nickel, minted from 1913 to 1938, and the Mercury dime, minted from 1916 to 1945, each capturing a unique aspect of the American spirit. In more recent times, United States coinage has continued to evolve. In 1965, due to the rising price of silver, the mint stopped using silver in dimes and quarters, switching to the copper-nickel-clad composition we use today. A major milestone came in 1999 with the launch of the 50 State Quarters program. This incredibly popular program released 5 new quarter designs each year for 10 years, honoring each of the 50 states. This was followed by programs honoring national parks and American women, turning the coins in our pockets into a constantly changing gallery of American history and culture. The journey from hog money to the modern quarter is a reflection of the nation's own incredible journey. The history of American money is a fascinating story that mirrors the growth of the United States itself. It began with the simple, practical needs of early colonists who used barter, wampum, and tobacco to trade. The frustration with this inefficient system led to the first tentative steps toward a unique American currency. The journey started with the rare hogga money of 1616, a bold but short-lived experiment on the islands of Bermuda. This was followed by the defiant act of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, which created its own silver coins like the famous pine tree shilling dated 1652 to establish economic independence. The era leading up to the Revolution was a patchwork of different currencies, from privately minted tokens like the Rosa Americana to the first coin authorized by the Continental Congress, the 1787 Fugio cent. This coin, with its mind your business motto and symbolic interlocking rings, was a powerful statement of the new nation's identity and unity. These early coins were more than just money. They were declarations of independence and a search for a common American identity. They set the stage for one of the most important acts of the new federal government. The creation of the United States Mint in 1792 was a pivotal moment. With this single act, the nation committed to a unified, decimal-based currency system that would fuel its growth for centuries. The first coins from the new mint in 1793, the maligned chain cent, the improved wreath cent, and the symbolic Liberty cap cent, were the first tangible products of this national vision. Shortly after, the first silver and gold coins, the 1794 flowing hair dollar and the 1795 gold eagle, established the United States as a credible player in the world economy. These coins announced that America was a nation ready to trade and prosper on its own terms. From those early days, American coinage has never stopped telling our story. Each new design, from the classic, seated Liberty coins of the 19th century to the artistic masterpieces of the early 20th century like the St. Gaudens double eagle, reflects the ideals and aesthetics of its time. Even the metals used have a story, marking times of war, economic change, and technological advancement. Modern programs like the 50 State Quarters have continued this tradition, turning our pocket change into a dynamic chronicle of our nation's history. The journey from a handful of hog-stamped tokens to the billions of coins produced today is a powerful testament to the enduring strength and spirit of the United States.